Hey, everybody, and welcome. Today, we're asking what's the true cost of building the future of AI? Right now, Meta's making headlines not just for its tech, but for its unprecedented talent acquisition strategy. Or is it unprecedented because we can go back in AI history? But Mark Zuckerberg himself is personally recruiting top researchers, offering compensation packages that reportedly reach into the nine figures, 100 million bonuses, and it's being dubbed Zuck Bucks in discussions. So the Zuck Bucks campaign has already lured several key AI experts away from OpenAI and other rivals. But this is about more than money, right? This is a window into the deeper struggle, a battle over who controls the environment where the next breakthrough in AI will happen. And Meta's aggressive push follows the mixed reception, I don't know, the meh reception of Llama 4 models and signals a shift away from open academic style research to a high stakes product driven race. And that is one that is more natural to Zuckerberg, right? The academic style research is not where he came out of in the same way that that these other labs have come out of. So there's also this paradox. Meta's own chief AI scientist, Jan LeCun, publicly questions whether dominant large language model approach that these hires are meant to advance is actually the way to move forward with AI. And in fact, he's pretty clear that he thinks there's a bunch of stuff missing. So OpenAI is doubling down on mission driven culture and long term incentives to keep its talent loyal. They are aware of what's happening. Sam has talked about feeling like this is somebody who's broken into his house. And the leader of the research lab, where these four people left, is making personal plea. Like OpenAI, I think, is going on vacation for a week because people have been burnt out. So there's a bunch of pieces of this. So the question that we face today in foundational AI research, what matters more, massive capital or an unyielding mission? Can a culture of innovation truly be bought? And what do we lose when the fights for supremacy becomes a war for people and the weapons are money? This is the Daily AI Show. We're streaming live June 30th, 2025 at 10 a.m. Eastern. Today is episode 496. With me in the studio today are Brian Masseri, Carl Ye, and I am Beth Lyons. So here we go. Let's explore the questions together. All right. So let's just start with what do we think Zuck thinks he's buying with 100 million? Like, what is that?
Well, I don't know if it's 100 million, and I only say that because one of the newsletters I read this morning said one of the people hired away has confirmed they did not get 100 million. And that sounds like an absurd. I don't know if that where that number came from, if it was ever validated or not. It's an absurd amount of money, and you would have to think, did Jan LeCun get paid $100 million? Like did like that's an absurd amount of money, and I feel like, man, that must have just gotten into the interwaves of AI, and may or may not be uh, true. But to your point, it doesn't matter, right? What if it's 50 million? That's still an absurd amount of money. What if it's 10 million? That would still be an absurd amount of money by any level. So, like, my first question to this is like, who out there could even justify that cost unless Zuckerberg's take on it is, well, it's not so much about me getting the talent, which I'm sure is part of it. It's about the damage I can inflict to a competitor. And so that might be worth X amount of millions of dollars or whatever. It's not really because that person has, well, you would hope it's not just 10, you would hope it's not just even, right? If they're literally being paid 10 million, you would hope it's because Zuck thinks they can bring 100 million in value to the company or whatever it is, right? I mean, there's got to be a force multiplier there. So is it more about that, or is it about, I have money, I have cash, and I can inflict disruption and pain at competitors by doing this? I don't know.
I'm not sure I would agree with that take because it doesn't I think like to me that would be the Gavin Belson hiring 53, I forgot the type of engineers he hired just so they wouldn't work at Pied Piper, and essentially they would just sit there and do nothing for his box 3. If you never watched Silicon Valley, you would never get that reference, but that would be what I would be thinking of. But I think the thing more here is you're overpaying for talent, because I look at it as a sports team. It's like, hey, I can't draft well. I can't, my teams, because the faith in his own labs must be very terrible. That's a strong message he's sending to his own AI labs. Hey, I don't believe in you, so I'm going to go and get lots better talent than you. So that's like, a general manager saying, my team sucks. I got to go and overpay for a boatload of free agents to make my team better because I can't draft well. I can't cultivate my own talent. So, right. So, but that's one. I think like the other thing too is like, think about who's leading this whole thing. It like they got Scale, they've got Alexander Wang to lead it, but then think about the people who turned them down. Ilya Sutskever turned them down. Miriam Murati turned them down. I think Perplexity didn't turn them down. So there's also people and companies that turned them down because they just didn't. I'm not sure why they turned them down. Like we can only speculate on that. And then like you've got, I think it's up to 8 OpenAI researchers now, and I think it's pretty big news because it's OpenAI. But I'm like, it's not like OpenAI has like 20 people working there and 8's like, oh my God. It's like this company has a lot of people working there. So, and I always think that like if key people leave an organization, it's how good does your team recruit to fill, or it's an opportunity internally to promote. I always think that, like, I think it'd be a little bit tougher if like Noam Brown or Mark Chen, like the big names at OpenAI actually left. I think that would be bigger, right? You've got co-founders leaving to start their own thing. I think that's different. But when you have Noam Brown or Mark Chen saying, oh, you know what? I'm going to take Zuckerberg's money. I'm going to go over work for Meta. I think that sends a different message. But I don't know if you like, the Wired magazine yesterday or 2 days ago saying like, there's a message from Mark Chen saying, hey, we got to double down our focus. We'll review our compensation package and all that kind of stuff. So you only send that as if it is going on. Zuckerberg is trying to poach your own talent, which is fascinating because this to me again goes back to like sports. We're like, it's right. It's like everybody wants the talent, so you're gonna go and sometimes you overpay. But the question is, and I think Brian and Beth, if you follow sports in any type of capacity, it's like, hey, are you paying A money for B talent? And I'm not saying any of this A researchers are B talent, but like you would overpay B talent because to compensate because you have C talent. I don't know.
Right. And the sports analogy I think is great because there have been many people before in the sports world who are like, oh, okay, I have a boatload of cash. I'm going to buy myself a championship. And that, for the most part, is not a successful strategy. There are some, but it's more than just going out and buying the top talent that you can find. It's buying the talent that you think can play well together and understanding how to meet those individual needs. Right? Yeah. I mean, the Golden State Warriors are kind of a prime example of this because, and I'm spacing the name of the coach because I didn't expect to go here in this show today, but he is famous for wanting to connect with what the players want. And they have been very successful in championships, and they've also been not successful in getting the championships when they made the choice to add like super high quality talent that they thought would fit and then didn't for whatever reason, right?
But don't you guys think that, look, and to say Zuckerberg, yes, he is the head of Facebook, Meta, and so and we have seen the story, at least in this one, that he is personally invested. He is personally reaching out to people, which Could be different. I'm not really sure. But let's look back through history. And I don't have a whole history of obviously the Instagram stories, but even something like Oculus. If I'm not mistaken, Oculus was a separate company that was
Yep.
bought, correct? Like a Scale was Scale AI and others. And I'm not sure where people would rank that success, but I think I would say Meta's had a reasonable level of success in selling their Oculus gear past that purchase. And now that's a whole company purchase, but you could also be saying that that is also buying talent, right? That's saying, hey, we can't in-house grow this faster than if
Mhm.
we just go and get this talent. So again, I number one, if depending on where I felt like my personal part of the mission is, if a meta comes over and says, again, 1/10. Let's just say it's 1/10 and it's $10 million in bonuses and compensation packages. I'm sure there's stock involved in it. It's very rarely straight cash or whatever, but bonuses for things, marks hit and stuff like that. But regardless, if it's like $10 million and I know I'm good and I happen to be at the right place in history with AI or whatever, yeah, that's an amount of money that will make people sit up and say, this is life-changing money for it to me move over. And I might love my time at OpenAI, whatever, but there's a significant amount of money being thrown around. But I also think that Meta is not without success stories. It might be easier to point to some failures and things like that, but they're where they are today from building from a humble the Facebook, right, at Harvard to where they are today is not an accident. And Mark Zuckerberg certainly isn't a failure. He's gotten to where he is now by surrounding himself with the right team. He couldn't have done it all on his own. He's had very, very talented people around him over the years, and people come and go in tech all the time. So I guess my question to you guys is this a big story because of the number that was thrown out there, the 100 million? Because if you take away 100 million and you go, oh, some people are moving from OpenAI to Meta, it's like, meh, well, people move from Google to Meta to OpenAI. If you look at most people's like uh, history, or work history, like on a LinkedIn, it's not uncommon to see 3 or 4 of the big names all on there. I worked at Apple for a little bit, then I worked at Facebook, or Meta, then I worked at OpenAI, then I worked at, so that's not uncommon. So is this really a big story, or is it because there was a big number attached to it and that's what caught fire?
I think it's a big story because it's Zuck, right?
Yeah.
So Zuckerberg has been trying it, in my interpretation, based on the people that I've read and people that I listen to. Zuckerberg has been trying to buy legitimacy in the AI club for a pretty long time.
Mm-hmm.
He tried to acquire DeepMind. DeepMind went to Google and said, "Hey, maybe this is a better fit for us." Right? I
I didn't
think
know
it's
that.
telling that that they're not pursuing talent at Anthropic because they don't think Anthropic's people are a good fit for the lab that Zuckerberg is building. And maybe that's just a personality thing, but there is, I don't know, didn't Zuckerberg, like, his origin story is creating a creating Facebook as a way of rating whether your college colleagues are hot or not? Like,
That is the story that's in The Social Network for sure. I'm not sure how much of that is movie
well,
lore and
but
how much of that is real lore at this point, but yeah.
and then that's an incredibly successful thing. And so now you acquire products that help keep you moving. I mean, in some ways it's not Elon's story, but it for me brings up the same questions about it. Like, are you trying to win because you have so much power and influence that those are the stakes for you now?
Oh,
Versus,
oh,
like,
well,
are
like,
you trying to,
is it
is there a
personal?
mission, beyond
Yeah.
I'm king of the mountain? Because
Oh, I
this is a
think,
very serious technology to be having like a tug of
and
war.
by the way, Llama 4, I know people want to like, crap on it, whatever. It's not, I mean, look, out of all the models out there, it's in line with Grok. It's in like Meta 4 is not a horrible model. Is it a top tier? No, but it's really not that far away either, in my opinion. So I know people want to be like, oh, well, they had to buy in talent because it must not be going well at Meta. And I'm thinking, look, they didn't create Llama 4, they didn't create Meta and what they have created up to this point. Because yes, maybe we don't like it as much as what Google is currently doing. But go a year and a half ago, we would have flip-flopped that and said, like, Google doesn't know what they're doing. They keep going this way and that way, and they're renaming it all that. And now look at Google. And now nobody's laughing at Google. Everybody's talking about how Gemini Pro is really, really impressive and things like that. So is this just a point in time? Because I think Meta has done very well in AI. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, is 4 people going to turn the ship? I don't think so. I think this is more about disruption.
And it's more than 4.
It's what?
Right? It's more than 4.
It's more. I think though. I think Beth, your point about, because you can't just bring a whole bunch of people together and think that, go back to sports, bring a bunch of people together and make them win a championship, right? Because I'm gonna go to I forgot which Lakers, which you had like Karl Malone, Gary Payton, like they had a Steve Nash, this whole team, and it like kind of fizzled. It was okay, but right. And then, but then the successful, what I've seen a success is like back in the 90s where you have the New York Yankees and like the amount of money they spent with every single talent that seemed to just keep coming to that team was as outrageous. I think though, like it'd be very interesting to see. One is how fast can they ramp, right? Because yes, you bring talent in, but I'm like, okay, what are you going to do with that talent? Like, what's your goal? Because the thing is, are they still AGI? Are they still Llama 5? Like, what is it? But then the terms that came out are like super intelligent. So are they racing to that?
Right.
Like, do they care even about products anymore? It's like, I'm curious about the recruiting pitch, right? Because I'm like, so Brian, like when you say it's like, pivot and his like the amount of money, but I'm like, the people that are working at these labs aren't making like peanuts. They're probably making quite a lot of bank, right? I'm not sure, but I'm like, I would assume that they're making quite a. You don't get like a $10 billion like investment and not pay your people. Like you're gonna have a lot of like well-paid people there, because I would assume it's not like everyone's not trying to poach their talent. Like it'd be crazy to be like, this is the only time in the last 3 years that someone's come in and poached, like they're trying to poach their people, right? So but I think the point is like when you put all these new people together, okay, who's running the ship? I think it's Alexander Wang, but who's really running the ship? Mark Zuckerberg. Like it'd be crazy not to. But then it's like, what does Jan LeCun do? Like
that was going to be my question.
What does he do? And then the question he would have is like, can I just continue doing my crazy like research here and like slag everything that you're doing? I'm really not sure what the dynamic is and how fast can they go, and like, is it really just to have a better Llama 5? Like, are you doing all this just to do that? It doesn't make any sense to do that. Like, if you're gonna throw this,
I think it's the smart glasses. I think it's the AR. I mean, when I think of Meta, I think of them like, I mean, hell, their name is Meta, and there was a huge push towards the metaverse, and a lot of people see that as a flop. I think it was probably just a decade or maybe more too early. That happens sometimes. I don't necessarily think it's a bad idea with like the stuff they invested, as opposed to like Apple spinning up, actually getting to apparently a working prototype car and then spinning down the entire self-driving car. Like that's a bigger thing than I think Meta's done. And people just go, yeah, I don't know, Apple took a swing at a car. You're like, oh my God, that was billions of dollars that they said, we don't see a future here, right? Whatever the reason was. So with Meta, I think like, look at what they're doing. Like their partnerships with Oakley now, with what they're coming out, the new Meta glasses, and Ray-Ban before that. And I think Ray-Ban will continue. Look what they're doing as far as product with Oculus and things like that. They are in the VR, the AR space. They are in and AI ties in so well to those. We know with gaming and stuff like that. So no, I don't personally think it's just a Llama 5 or whatever the next iteration of the LLM is. And if that's not the case, wow, does that fit better in with the narrative of a Jan LeCun who said, and Carl and Beth, you guys tell me better, but he was the one that basically said LLMs are a dead end, and there has to be something different, fundamentally different. Well, that seems to, and that may even be something that could draw talent over. If you are currently only working on producing a better LLM, and I don't know any of this to be true, then you could see how somebody who's dangling a thing and going, we have Jan LeCun as well as many other talented people here at Meta, and you can go work on these other things that are bigger than the LLM because we don't think that's the future. I don't know. I'm speculating on all this, but I could see how Zuck coming to you and saying, look at what you have access to at Meta. Look at what you have access to at OpenAI. And you have a lot, I don't know.
But that is something that we at least start to see signs of that in the conversation, right? So when it looked like OpenAI was making some really interesting innovations, Noam Brown moved from wherever he was, and I think maybe he was at Tesla at that point. He moved back to OpenAI.
I think he was at Meta.
Okay, so he was at Meta and he moved back to OpenAI. But that indicated a little bit like, oh, I think you're moving in the right direction. Yes, I want to come back and I want to do that. Andre Karpathy also like left wherever he was, and yes, he's hopped a bunch of places because he's a name and he can go work wherever he wants, I think, right? So that's kind of the mission. Gareth is in the chat saying that he thinks that the scaled guy, so Alexander Wang, I think is his last name, that he's going to give them more insight on how to train the models by labeling the data, that they probably just need help with how to use it. So is that the vision that they're coming in? Meta has a ton of data, right? Because the minute you log in, you've given them permission to take absolutely everything that they can grab put their hands on.
So here's a question for you all too, and this is where I'm thinking from. Okay, how does he run the business? So I think I don't know how much they're making per year, like Meta alone, from like their pure all their other elements, right? So Instagram, all their advertising, everything that Facebook does in terms of like actual generating revenue. I'm not sure from a terms of profit. And then, so that's a piece. It's like, can we, with the amount of money and talent, maybe the focus is too much here. Is Meta becoming, like, I know they want to be known as an AI company, but like, I think outside the AI bubble, most people still see them as like a social company, a social, like, all the things that they do, the amount of people they have on these networks. I'm curious, just like, are they in the middle of a business pivot? Because like Meta made sense, like the metaverse, like the connections to your followers, your social, it kind of made sense. If the metaverse actually took off, then, you're like, that the social network becomes something on Meta, right? Like, but this is a little strange because you're hiring like data scientists, researchers in artificial intelligence to build something. I know you can connect it to social, but it's not that straight of a line. So it's like, and I think the big question is, how are you going to make money off this? Like, that's your core business, right? Whether we believe OpenAI or not, they still say their mission is AGI. Even what Mark Chen says, we got to focus on AGI, like whatever. But like Meta's business focus doesn't, I'm like, sure, they can say, hey, it's super intelligence. But I'm like, you're going to monetize it somehow, right? That's the whole point. You're not just throwing money for the sake of reaching there. And we said we did it first, but okay, so like, what are you going to do with it? Like once you get there?
they don't have to make money at this. Meta's business in all of the labs is the one that's least threatened, right? So because
What do you mean?
Meta's business, I give as little to Meta as possible, but we are the product, right? We are the product and the consumers of Meta's business models. And none of what they're doing is going to interrupt that, unlike Google, right? So Google is cannibalizing its own business model. Deep Pocket's got a lot of time to play with that, right?
No, but what I mean is, you're not just throwing money for the fun of it. Like, there has to be, when you tell your board, when you go to your investors, you be like, "Hey, I'm throwing whatever billions of dollars into AI," and then your board's like, "Okay, why?" You're not going to say because, and then you just drop the sentence, right?
No,
You're
I'm
like,
sure.
like there's something that you say, here's the roadmap, here's where we think, and here's where it's going to be lucrative, here's the plan. Like, that's what you're probably going to say. I'm curious, what is that whole piece that you would have told the board and said, "Hey, in 7-10 years we will be profitable because of these reasons, this is why we're putting X billions of dollars, not we're putting X billions of dollars because I feel like it."
I don't know what he tells his board, but that is not profitability. I don't think he's motivated by profitability as much as he's motivated by power and being first and making sure that other people aren't. The other piece of this, I think, is that I think the stat that I read was 80% of the names on the Meta papers, right, when they publish papers, are gone, that those people have left Meta. So they may be bringing in more names for that. But I don't know. I don't know what the business model is. Aren't all of the boards of Frontier Labs being sold a this is really expensive now, but it keeps coming down, and at some point it's going to be profitable. Like, all of them are being sold
I
that,
think it's
right?
different with Meta. I think it would be a little bit different with Meta, though, right? Because it's like, what are you? I'm just curious. What are you telling them? Like, OpenAI has one business model. Like, that's one. Like, purely, here's what we're doing. Anthropic has one. Google has its own ecosystem that they're trying to run off of. And I'm curious, like, Meta's a little different too, because they're a social platform first and foremost that is now running AI. So I'm curious too, right? Because I also think it goes all the way back to, why would Murati, Suskever, Aravind turn him down, like, company wise, and then he'll pick individual people. So when you have this new group that apparently is going for super intelligence, what does that, like, can you culture fit that? Like, what's the culture? Is it going to be same as Meta? Is it going to be like completely different? Is it a different company? Like, have you hived off a different brand? Because I'm thinking that's a very unique business, I guess, in its own right. Because, like, you're like, "Hey, I don't like my AI team," and you can say, "Hey, they're not good at," whatever you spin it, you're clearly not impressed with what has been coming out. So hence you're
So
going
you're
to town.
Zuck.
Well,
Yeah. You're Zuck saying, "Hey, I don't like my AI team."
Yeah, in so many words, you're like, there's a couple of reasons why you do this. But then I'm curious, it's like, is it now like this? Is it like its own division? It has to be, but like, what does that feel like? What does that feel like? And is it connected to the Meta culture, or is it not?
It's a super intelligence division. They are across the hall. Now, I have no idea what that means, right? Like,
how big is the hall?
It's just like a really big bubble that's like, you're here to just,
like, is it
like,
it's like,
but
Alexander Wang is right beside me in Texas.
Right. The idea is that you have access to Zuckerberg, but also Zuckerberg has access to you, right? And you're being led by someone who is very important in the AI world, but has never led a lab team, right? He's the data guy. He had that idea.
Okay, in the comments, as well as
Mm-hmm.
what I feel like I'm hearing from you guys. I don't know if this is a pushback as much as like, I don't think it doesn't sound like Zuckerberg's being given enough credit for how far he's come with this. He is still the CEO of his own company. He was never pushed out. The board has not tried to oust him. Can't say the same for Sam. He has had a successful 20+ year run. He's in a league of his own. I mean, Steve Jobs passed away. That's not his fault. But like, there's other people. Maybe Steve Jobs would have still been, had he remained healthy. I don't know. But when you look at these other companies, I guess Elon, I mean, technically, but he hasn't been doing it as long. So there's a lot of mistrust. I hear it. Delma's talking about it. I get it. Gareth is talking about it. Judah's talking about it. Like, well, there's an inherent distrust with Facebook, Meta, how they share data. And I think all of that is super valid. But also, I saw in the comments, like, they're not where they need to be with AI. Guys, Meta is a top 5 AI company, top 5 in probably the world. Like, look at who the other ones are. So they're not. I mean, they may be behind in some ways or whatever, but like, come on, they're right in the race. They're no different than where Google was. They're a massive company. Yes, I do believe that if you come in there, by the way, if you're a Mira or an Ilya or whatever, unless it's like a Jan LeCun, and who knows why he decided to do that, but they're at a certain status level that unless they come in, then Garrett's saying top 5 ? Top 10. Yes. Okay, Garrett, tell me the other ones that are above him, I guess, in the comments.
Well,
maybe you're right on that. But my point is, those two people, as an example, Carl, they can go do their own thing. I mean, Mira came out and raised a whole bunch of money for something. We're still not sure what she's building. Ilya has kind of said what he's building. They don't need Zuck. And so if you're at that level, unless you're coming in and Zuck's like, I will not bother you. I will just give you funding to go do whatever it is you want to go do. And we just want to have you as part of the Meta thing, but I'm not going to get involved. That's one thing. That obviously doesn't sound like what's going on right here. This is a very much you're on Zuck's team and everybody else. In terms of being part of it. So yes, I do think the work they're doing is going to have farther reaching stuff with, just like Scale is, just like Oculus, just like Instagram, all the other parts and pieces. Honestly, no different than the way I see Google. Google is DeepMind, as well as its Facebook, as well as it's making movies. Apple is Apple and the iPhone, but they're also in the movie business with Apple and F1, the movie that just came out, right? So these are massive companies at this point. It's not just one angle, but AI could trickle into all of them. I don't know. I just feel like there's not maybe in the comments or whatever. And I don't know why. I don't want to feel like I'm being defensive of Zuck. I don't have any money in Meta. I don't have anything like that. Win, lose, or otherwise. But they've certainly proven that they're capable of staying in the race. And if it's buying talent or it's to disrupt the industry, maybe these are just the moves of somebody who's really shrewd and has been doing this for 20+ years and knows how to make a difference. I don't know. He's in the role he's in for a reason, is my point.
Well, he's in the role he's in because he's the guy who started the thing, right? Like
but we've seen those guys and girls before be ousted, so it's possible. Is it incapable of him being removed? I don't know. Could be.
I don't think he is. Like, I think like the way that OpenAI's board was structured was a little different too, right? It's like, yeah, right. they could have they had the voting power to kick him out. At Meta, no one has the voting power to kick Zuckerberg out.
Okay.
I don't know. A little bit different than that. It was never about questioning Zuckerberg to whatever that question was. It was more about like, why did these companies, first of all, the question is, why did he approach all these talent to acquire them? That'd be the big question. Is like, why did you? And then why did they all say no? Like, outside of Alexander Wang saying yes, and then individual people saying yes. But then it doesn't matter. We don't know. Like, I'm just curious about like how fast can they ramp up? Can they build whatever they're trying to build, and when will we see the outputs of this whole thing? Is it going to be a year? Is it going to be 6 months? Is it going to be like, and is it going to benefit us? Like, are we going to see product, or is it like no product and it's just like Ilya Sutskever's company going to super intelligence, and that's the big focus, and that's what they're focused on. It's like, where does Meta's AI land now? Like, is it different? Is it the same? Are they coming out with Llama 5? Or like, you know what? We'll let DeepSeek run it. We're gonna be like something else.
So,
and that, to me, that would be an interesting. Like, I'm curious to see what that looks like.
did they ever actually come out with the top 4 model? They came out with the smallest and the medium, and
the Behemoth. I don't think they've launched Behemoth yet.
So that keeps getting pushed back, right? And so now maybe they're just scrapping that and moving on to Llama 5. It seems to be where we're going in this conversation. I do think that there has to be a little bit of soul searching in terms of the AI department in this, and I question whether giving people life-changing money doesn't impact. I question whether that's just like, hey, we got you to come over here, but then what is the impact on people who are doing that? Right. And Ilya is not just super intelligence, he's safe super intelligence, right? Like, that's his thing. So we can't drop that when we're like, why didn't Ilya go? Because that's gonna be super intelligence too. I don't know that I would believe Zuck if he said, I don't think Zuck's sense of safety aligns with my sense of safety, or what is like, right? Like,
yeah, listen, I think that's a huge factor, is the individual. He's personally going out and getting his talent. Your personality and what you stand for and whatever your ethics are have to align with what Zuck is doing. I mean, for instance, not that anybody's asking me, I wouldn't work for Elon Musk. Now, you might think immediately, oh, it's politics or whatever. No. Elon Musk is where Bill Gates was 20 years ago in terms of this particular point. I've listened to Bill Gates say over and over again, look, I used to think the way to get things done was looking out the window, and my window faced the parking lot, and I knew who drove what cars. Now, in his 60s, looking back, 70s, he regrets that decision on the way he ran Microsoft at the time. We might have a whole debate on whether that was necessary to get Microsoft to greatness at that time, that was what was required. But I know for sure that Elon Musk is, if I was going to be working for him, it's the assumption that I expect you to work as hard as me. And if that means 70-hour weeks and never seeing your family, so be it, for the greater cause. Now, I don't know what Zuck's take on that is, but you're right, Beth. Like, if you're at that level and it's like you're going to be across the hall from Zuck, blah, 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 whatever that is, yeah, that's going to be a huge factor, obviously, is are you personally willing to work for that person on a day and out, and what are the expectations for that? And obviously the safety aspects, and I know there's a lot of people, Cambridge Analytica, back in the day and stuff like that. I mean, Facebook right now, maybe Meta, but anyway, Facebook is rechanging their terms of service on how they can use past images on Facebook to train them on AI. So anything that I've previously posted on Facebook, including my daughter, I have to understand that I did that for free on Facebook under other written rules. And now Facebook is coming and saying, hey, we might use that as training data in the future. And I have to decide whether that's something that's important enough for me to pull all my data off of Facebook and never use it again. I've certainly had family and friends who've gone that route. And then there's other people that go, well, this is where my comfort level ends or whatever. So I get it. I think it's a lot because he's such a polarizing personality that's been in the media now for 20 plus years. Since starting Facebook. And so I feel like a lot of people feel like they know him, but I do wonder if you replaced his name with a name nobody knew, would this really still have the same bite or not? Or this really is a story about Zuckerberg. I mean, it's a personal story about Zuckerberg. I'm not sure.
I think it's a personal story about Zuckerberg, and I will give the example of Cambridge Analytica and using Facebook as a way to build profiles of voters in leading up to President Trump's first win, right? So 2016. Um, they that they knowingly allowed foreign countries to influence and create manipulative scenarios in which they could manipulate people's perception and likely have them vote in a certain way. Like, this was research that had been done, and I think they knew it was going to happen, but it wasn't quite as clear a playbook as we can see now after it did happen, right? And so we can go back and do that. When that started to come out, Zuckerberg apologized for Meta's role. When Trump won the second time, Zuckerberg took back the apology. I didn't mean to apologize. I felt forced to apologize. I'm not sorry about that. And this isn't like no take backsies, right? Like, it's not that you apologize and then, my fingers were crossed. For me, it feels more like a worldview, right? Like, I apologize because that was important. I think he said that it was more Salzburg who was a deep influence and giving him that push that he needed to apologize and those sorts of things. Like, I don't that kind of personality says things to me that I don't need to know him personally. I don't see that happening ever. But I think that those kinds of decisions imply some things about how you see the world.
By the way, a lot of people in the comments are agreeing with you, Beth, and what you're saying. So I want to make sure I'm bringing in the comments as well, that they're saying you're hitting a lot of the pain points and concerns that they have. You're voicing. I do want to bring this up as just a quick subplot of this. We're talking about, how this maybe impacts OpenAI if Meta takes 4 to 8 people and maybe more in the future, right? Because I think this is an ongoing deal. Here is possibly the bigger story of that. I don't think this really hurts OpenAI. They're going to be fine. Actually, what it really hurts are what Meta is doing by putting these astronomical packages together is like me selling my house for a whole lot more than all the houses around me, and then moving that number up of what now this acceptable level is. Like, that doesn't hurt the biggest players. Google's going to be fine. Anthropic, Perplexity, maybe not as much. Microsoft's going to be fine. XAI, okay, right? They're going to have the money and the cash to move around to still get these big players. But if you're a startup and Zuck has moved the number up to just get in the door with some of the best of these engineers or whatever their titles are, and you can't even pay to play unless you're at the $10 million level as a base, what you've really done is not really affected the big boys. You've affected the startups. Because how do they get talent unless it's homegrown and they convince you to be part of the cause and what they're trying to achieve? Maybe it's super intelligence, maybe it's a safer form or whatever, and you're part of that cause and you won't leave for money. Okay. But I think it's more about he's raised the floor. And so now what do you do? If that's the playing number, if everybody agrees now that the only way you can move is if you're at 10 million or above or whatever that floor is, the big players are going to be fine. It's the startups that I think really get screwed in this situation, because how do you pay to play? You don't have the money to do it unless you get huge investments of cash. And I don't know. It seems like it makes it really tough for there to be legit competition. If anything, this makes me worried that it's just solidifying it into the top 4 or 5 players, and where innovation gets a bit stifled there. If you can't have startups who can come in and make waves,
But if we go back to those sports analogy, have you really raised the floor for everybody? Or are part of your employees saying, wow, yeah, ooh, welcome, guy. That's probably 2 million. that I might have gotten if they didn't try to hire all of you stuff. Like it feels like it. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I guess like in sports is a little different. You kind of know who's good. You kind of know who's like as a player, you're like, okay, that person's really good. That person's really good. But you also know it's like, hey, how does that work from a team environment? Can that person work in the system that we have? Can that person work where we're trying to go? Right. So history's littered with teams that are paid for and flop, just littered with them. Sometimes it works, but I feel like the culture has already been built and that it just people fit into that culture rather than like a bunch of different personalities just put together and try to make it work. It's just different in sports. So I'm curious here, culture wise, they're like, is the culture already set to just, hey, or is this something completely different where it doesn't matter? There's a goal. Everybody just puts their talent together. You're all kind of mercenaries and you go and you build something amazing. I don't know. I don't know if what this does because I'm using a sports analogy and this is not sports. This is something a little bit different. I'm just curious to see like how fast can we get and when would be that first news release, right? It's like a Meta's super intelligence team. When is that first X post that's like the rumor mill that this is coming out? Like when is that happening? And like, or have they recalibrated their entire thinking and they're on a different path?
Yes. And I like your sports analogy because I'm going to come back to the stories that we're hearing is that you are getting a personal message reach out from Zuckerberg, right? So like, hey, this is truly me. Like people have responded to these reach outs, like, yeah, try again, Rob or whatever it is. And it's like, oh, no, it's really Zuckerberg. We're having personal dinners, like private dinners, right? You're going to be so close to me. But is Zuckerberg your locker room captain? I think not. Right. So your recruiting has tried to build a personal relationship and come to you, but I might be feeling a little differently if the scaled guy was a part of if we were hearing that the scale guy was part of those conversations, right? Who is in the sports analogy, who is holding the team together and making the team promise.
Right.
And I had a very small, because my sister's super into the Golden State Warriors. I followed them for a year and a half. So it's only in the, and I'm spacing their names, but when they went after, what is his name? He went and then he left. What?
You William? Like Kevin
No.
Like, are you
Kevin Durant? Yes. When they went after Durant, the stories were that the people who showed up were the coach, Steph, who was the leader of the team, right? The point guard whose name I'm spacing, like the team,
Clay,
keep people.
Clay Thompson.
I'm not sure Clay was in it,
Okay.
but maybe. No, he's
okay,
the body guy.
I know where.
But,
yeah.
But everybody was in that conversation. So you weren't saying just, hey, I'm going to give you all this money. I think we can get to a championship. We'll figure it out on the floor. You had the people who are going to be on the floor with him saying, we want you. We're all in this. It's totally fine.
Right.
That didn't get a championship that year.
Yeah.
Even with all of that.
They did win a championship with Durant, I believe.
The second year. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that if we're gonna go talk Golden State Warriors, just one thing is like Steph Curry is the leader of that team. Yes. There's no questions, right? There's Steph, Draymond, Klay Thompson was there, the three. They added Kevin Durant as like the big piece, but I'm like, we all know who is the heart and soul of that team is Steph Curry.
Right. And so having Steph there and saying, I want you too. I don't need the stats. I'm good. Right.
Yeah. I want you in because I want to win championships. Would you say this is like, what does this is there anybody here at Meta that is like that? Like, would you
I mean,
consider Zuck as Steph, or Zuck is more of like the GM or the team president, and he's trying to put this team together? But is there an actual like that culture at Golden State was already there? They just
Right.
added a piece to it,
I would
right?
imagine Yang LeCun has to be a draw for some people.
I'm curious.
But I don't know what role he plays, or if he's had anything to do with these particular. I don't know. I don't know that part. But I'm just saying, you were like, who could be like that locker room? Like, I mean, depending on the people and where they came up, I could see that name, as well as the guy that you guys mentioned from Scale, which I thought I had heard that he wasn't staying, but I guess maybe I heard that wrong or something. But regardless, like, yeah, I get your point. Like, is he the team captor, or is Zuck Steinbrenner? Is Zuck like, I've got the money and I can facilitate this trade and I can make sure that we're the Yankees through the 90s, right? Like, is he Steinbrenner, and is he a very smart? I mean, listen, you have your own opinions about whether he's trustworthy or not. Is he smart? Is he intelligent? Is he capable of putting the money where it needs to be successful? I think there's enough there to say that. Whether the public opinion is whether we trust or don't trust, and obviously there's several people in the chat saying we don't trust Meta, and I think obviously that's something that a lot of people talk about. But if you're one of these people, I can't speak for any of them. I'm not sure how I would do about it because I have my own opinions about Meta and stuff. But I remember somebody who was vouching that they were the 7th hire of Facebook. That was a big part of their resume. I was the 7th hire of Facebook. Now, if you dug into that, that person was also fired at the 1-year mark, right? Because whatever. But that's a point of social proof, career proof, to say I was there as part of the core team. And then you let people extrapolate the story and say, like, well, he must have been huge as part of the reason Facebook was fake. Well, maybe not, right? But my point is, if you're one of these people, even if you leave 2 years later, you go, I was selected by Mark Zuckerberg personally to be part of a team that led the such and such. I don't know where these people's career aspirations are. I mean, frankly, if you're getting thrown millions of dollars, that's enough to be happy for the rest of your life if you invest it. So I don't know what their career point are, if they want to make a true difference, if they just want to be like a lot of people and be safe and secure with their family and have career altering, life altering money. I don't know. I don't know why they're doing it or not, but I do understand that a lot of people in this industry bounce around a lot anyway. You can see it on the resumes and the the LinkedIn profiles and stuff. So look, I can't say for sure whether I agreed with everybody in the comments or not. And I was like, I hate this guy, da da da. And then Zuck comes a calling, like you said, Beth, that I'm like, I don't know, maybe I could do this for 2 years, because it would be a career bonus for me to do that. Never mind the money.
Oh, I'm not sure that the working there is going to be the career thing, but the money is not. Like, I think the money has to be considered.
Sure.
If you offered me money to do something that I was super interested in, I wasn't sure I could trust you for your vision. But if I do this for 18 months or 2 years, I never have to worry about money again. And I am in the room in developing a technology that may, in fact, interrupt how people make money in the future, right? We don't know what that's going to be. I might make that calculation personally that that's worth my 2 years.
I think so. I mean, I think it's got to be part of the conversation, right? I mean, again, none of us are these people. None of us know exactly why they may have chose to do that or not. I would imagine, again, there's many people like this, like in history, a Bill Gates, or people that, whoever it is, that people, it's insert your person, right? Whoever it is, Mira or somebody like that says, I want you to be on my team because we're going to do great things together. That's certainly got to have an impact. And, look, like I said, I'm more worried about what this does to the startups and stuff if this becomes the floor. And I guess disagree on that part, but I think that maybe has a larger long-term impact. We just saw Sam saying during their shutdown this week that even during their shutdown, he would be actively trying to bring those people back. That was like, I just saw that in one of the newsletters today, so I don't have a verified source on that, but that, like, regardless of the OpenAI shutdown for the fourth holiday, that they intended to work personally to try to bring these people back in. Because what the quote was like, it was like somebody came in and robbed their house or something like that, a quote like that. So obviously it's personal. Maybe that's the point, maybe it's like, hey, I have $2 billion that I can, have you, and I could disrupt things over in your house. And maybe that totally is worth the whole point to it. It's just like I came back to the beginning. Maybe it is just about disruption. I don't know.
Yeah. Carl, what's your final take on this?
Yeah, well, I don't want to see any. I'm curious when will the public, what the output of this will be. That's just I think that's more of the bigger question. What would be the output? And then, yeah, like, it'll be interesting to see where Meta goes after this. There is one thing though, is when you are offered quite a lot of money, and go back to sports, I'm going to right back in, and you're offered whatever it is. There are times when, like, you don't end up justifying your cost, or the team doesn't just do what it's supposed to do.
Right.
And right now you have the pressure on you to do something, and you have people, like, the patience isn't going to be like drawn out. It's like, hey, we don't, you don't have, like, sure, the pressure is on OpenAI, working at OpenAI, but I'm like, no, you were now put into this new position to not have how many, like, a long leeway. Like, the expectation is you got to output. Wouldn't you think the output would be better than the labs that are around? Like, isn't that the expectation, not to be, Brian, top 5, top 7, top 4? Like, isn't this, I'm doing this just to maintain top 5? That can't be the expectation. The expectation has to be, I'm doing this because I want to win.
He wants to win.
So
yeah, of course.
So the pressure's on everybody there now to outperform, whatever. Well, I'm going to throw all the resources at you. I don't know how much compute they have. We saw OpenAI now even using Google TPUs, right? So it's like, what's your inference cost? But, like, what does that look like? Are they part of Stargate? I don't know if they're part of Stargate. Are they?
Meta?
Are they? Yeah, is Meta part of Stargate?
No.
So where is their data centers? Like, those are the other questions too, right? It's like, okay, you're under pressure now, so can you perform to what essentially Zuckerberg wants you to perform? Curious.
And this, I'm going to say, we're going to wrap up. If there's any final things, wave at me. But I'm going to say, I think that this is part of the key. But the place where our sports analogies break down is that they're not just inventing the team. We are reinventing the game every month, right? So you're putting people together, not just because you think they were going to be able to perform to create this winning thing, but that they're also going to be able to help co-create the shift in the game that's going to make it work for you. And, like, there's so many things that you don't know the outcome of what's going to happen, which I think makes trust more important. And I think that's a fundamental flaw in Meta's culture in general. Like, when people talk about what it was like to work there and leaving, those kinds of things, I think that is an example of some of what the culture has been. And I'm not sure that Zuck can change that if he's part of the foundation of why the culture exists that way. All right. Well, I thought I was going to be totally solo today, and I was not. Thank you so much to Brian, who's on vacation, Carl, excellent, and all of the people in chat. You guys are our sixth man if we're talking basketball and being super gendered about it. But thank you all so much. Tomorrow we're going to talk about MCP. Carl will be regaling us with his brilliance in this topic. And it's we're going to talk about MCP and why it's important, and give you a little bit of a foundation. Again, we did this in March. Now we're coming back to it because a bunch has changed. And yeah, thank you for this holiday week. We will see you tomorrow, we hope. Take care, everybody. Yes, I am waiting for the aloha that just will never come, as is everybody else. Miss you,
I
Jimmy.
can say it. Aloha.